Hello there, a very good evening and a warm welcome to the Business RoundUp on another weekend. I am Pamudha Katagampala. We are television bringing as usual another collection of latest happenings and developments in the business arena, easing your decision-making moments. And now let's have a look at the top stories for tonight. Government records $15.12 billion in export earnings for 2021. CBSA reports that inflation had accelerated to 14.2% in January 2022. And Transparency International deems Sri Lankan companies to be moderately transparent. And now let's have a detailed look at today's stories. Sri Lanka's exports in 2021 recorded $15.12 billion, up by 23% from 2020, sustaining its resilience despite an unprecedented economic crisis. Releasing the latest provisional data, Trade Minister Bandara Gunawardena appreciated the contribution of exporters to the economy despite the unprecedented economic conditions they had to deal with, assuring more support to reach a $20 billion target this year.
මේ අපේ රටේ එවන් විශාල අර්බුදයක් තුළ පසුගිය වර්ෂයේදී ලංකා ඉතිහාසයේ ප්‍රථම වතාවට භාණ්ඩ අපනයන ඉපයුම ඇමරිකානු ඩොලර් බිලියන 12.4 දක්වා මේ පෞද්ගලිකාංශයේ වර්ධනය කරගෙන තියෙනවායි කියන එක මම මේ අවස්ථාවේ බොහොම සතුටින් ප්‍රකාශ කරන්නට කැමැති වෙනවා. අපේ දීර්ඝ කාලයක් තිස්සේම තිබෙන්නේ läග සිටින අපනයන වර්ධනය. කියන්නේ සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ලංකාවේ භාණ්ඩ අපනයන මෑත ඉතිහාසයේ තුල ඇමරිකානු ඩොලර් බිලියන 8යි 10යි අතර දක්වා දෝලණය වෙනවා. අපේ අපනයන තරංකාරීත්වය නැත්තම් එක්ස්පෝර්ට් කම්පිටිටිව්නස් එක නැත්තම් අපිට වෙළඳපොළට කිසිසේත් යන්න බෑ. ඒ නිසා මේ අවස්ථාවේදී බොහෝ අපනයන කර්මාන්ත පවත්වාගෙන යන්න එන්නත් කරණය ලබා දීම ඒ කර්මාන්ත පවත්වාගෙන යාමට අවසර ලබා දීම යනාදීදී විවිධ විවේචන රජයට තිබුණා. මේ රෝගිය පැතිරෙන අවස්ථාවේදී අපනයන ටික පවත්වාගෙන යන්න යනවා. නමුත් සාමාන්‍ය ජනතාවට තේරෙන්න ගන්න අමාරු දේ තමයි අපනයන නැත්තම් අපිට ඛනිජ තෙල් ගේන්න බෑ. අපනයන නැත්තම් අපිට බෙහෙත් ගේන්න බෑ. අපනයන නැත්තම් අපිට එන්නත් කරණය කරන්න බෑ. අපනයන නැත්තම් අපිට ආර්ථිකය පවත්වාගෙන යාම සඳහා අවශ්‍ය විදේශ විනිමය ඉපයුමක් නැත්තම් අපිට ආනයනය කරන්න බෑ.
Meanwhile, EDB Chairman Suresh Dimel, who also joined Minister Bandara Gunawardena to brief media personnel, said that almost all the major merchandise sectors, apparel and textiles, tea, rubber-based products, coconut-based products, electronics and electronic components recorded increased exports. EDB chief also said that in 2021, exports to free trade agreement partners accounted for 7.2% and total merchandise exports increased by 33.57% to $906.99 billion.
මාස 8ක් අපිට පුළුවන් වුණා ඩොලර් බිලියන 1කට වැඩිය ප්‍රගතියක් ලබා ගන්න. දැන් මේක අපි ක්ෂේත්‍ර අතරේ බැලුවොත් ක්ෂේත්‍ර ගොඩාක් තියෙනවා. අපිට කැපිලා පේනවා රබර් ආශ්‍රිත භාණ්ඩ අපනයනයේදී අපි ඩොලර් බිලියන 1ක් පහු කරා මේ අවුරුද්දේ. ඒ වගේම ග්ලව්ස් වගේ ඒවා මේ කොවිඩ් එකේ හින්දා ලොකු ප්‍රගතියක් දැක්කා අපි PPE කියන්නේ personal protection equipment අංශේ. තවත් අපි පොල් ආශ්‍රිත අපනයනයේදී 126ක ප්‍රගතියක් පෙන්නුවා ඩොලර් මිලියන 836ක. ඊළඟට වැඩියෙන්ම අපිට වර්ධනයක් පේන අංශ තමයි කුරුඳු, ගම්මිරිස්, කොකෝ පීට්, පොල් ආශ්‍රිත, ඉස්සෝ, මිරිදිය මසුන් හැටියට යන්නේ ශ්‍රිම්ප්ස් සහ විසිතුරු මසුන් අපනයනය. Ornamental fish exports.
Haley's group goes for another milestone with the unveiling of Life Code, an ambitious new framework that integrates environment, social and governance-related targets and goals into business strategy across each of its 16 business sectors. The Haley's Life Code also includes detailed disclosures on the conglomerate's approach to managing ESG topics, its long-term roadmap, ESG governance and risk management.
The Haley's Life Code sets out a holistic framework for a driving group-wide call to action anchored to United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, marking an unprecedented level of linkage between ESG targets and value creation systems. Haley's has been a signatory to the UN Global Compact from 2007, adopting Global Reporting Initiative guidelines in 2007 and adopting the first code of best practice on corporate governance from 2009, in addition to being the only corporate recognized as the nation's best corporate citizen on 5 occasions. Further, Haley's group maintains a global presence across 5 regions with business interests spanning 16 diverse sectors. Haley's also accounts for $600 million of the country's foreign earnings and 4.2% of the nation's total export income.
It's a policy driven by ESG roadmap that will be integrated into every group company's way of working. It showcases our short-term, our medium-term, and our long-term objectives, targets, and policies. It encapsulates the mantra that we have used to steer the group throughout the years. It is condensed wisdom developed and passed on throughout the years, and now it is up to us to make a difference together. As we move forward, the Haley's Life Code, including the policies, will be refreshed and improved as required to keep us relevant to the times.
When it comes to ESG, I'm confident that the 16 sectors and 30,000 people marching to the same beat, we can make a very powerful difference in people's life. This is only practical if the Haley's Group Life Code is used to formulate a customized, relevant ESG roadmap by each of our sectors.
Government has revised down the tourist arrivals forecast for 2022 to 1.1 million from an ambitious earlier goal of attracting 2.3 million, a move influenced by the surge in Omicron variant in major source markets. Tourism Minister Prasanna Ranathinga reveals that the government expects over 1.1 million tourists to visit the country this year, whilst the short, medium and long-term strategies rolled out by Sri Lanka Tourism will assist in reaching the year-end goal. Tourism Minister Prasanna Ranathinga last Sunday said that the spike in COVID-19 cases, particularly in top source markets in Western Europe and India, has slowed down tourist arrivals, while strict outbound travel restrictions imposed by China and Japan too had impacted numbers. Prior to this, he said that the monthly target of 100,000 to 125,000 arrivals will not be accomplished, noting that the future trend of tourism remains uncertain amidst the evolving nature of the pandemic. He also added that other correlated variables such as travel restrictions, vaccination rates and efforts in curtailing the pandemic are also contributing factors. At the time these statements were made, globally reported COVID-19 cases had amounted to 373.58 million in 200 countries with 5.6 million deaths. The US, India and Brazil had seen the highest number of confirmed cases, followed by the UK, France and Russia. As per provisional data released by the Tourism Ministry on Sunday, Sri Lanka had received 76,538 tourists in the first 29 days. Within the week prior to this, there was a significant increase of 17,538 tourists. However, January is unlikely to beat the record post-COVID month of December, which attracted 89,500 tourists. Since mid-2021, Sri Lanka Tourism Promotion Bureau rolled out promotions in several countries, including Russia, France, Germany and the United Kingdom. The inflow of tourists has been boosted by increased connectivity through international airlines. We will be right back after a short commercial break.
Businesses in this day and age require the best communication solutions to be connected anywhere and anytime. Our technologically advanced long-distance radio devices operate even in the most challenging and harsh environments, designed for dust, water, and drop resistance. The push-to-talk function is designed for convenience, ensuring clear and uninterrupted communication between multiple devices. Dynacom Engineering, a subsidiary of IWS Holdings, is a licensed service provider of the best push-to-talk long-distance wireless communication systems, approved by the TRC and the Ministry of Defense.
Sponsored by
Welcome back to the program. The government on Tuesday stressed that they are in discussion with all aid agencies and efforts are being made to restructure foreign debt. Speaking to journalists from the Government Information Department via Zoom, Minister Ramesh Patharan assured that the government will be capable of sorting out the current economic crisis within 6 months.
That was a constant discussion that we've been speaking about that. Yes, we are open to all the institutions and all the ideas. So we have been speaking to IMF as well over a period of time, and it's our government during His Excellency Mahinda Rajapaksa's time which has obtained the highest amount of loan from International Monetary Fund. So we keep our doors open, and also at the same time we speak to World Bank, Asian Development Bank, also other agencies. So we have honored the first $500 million repayment this year. Yes, we need to pay another $1 billion by June. We are trying to manage the situation, and also at the same time we are trying to restructure. We are in discussion with all the agencies. Hopefully we should be able to manage the current crisis within 6 months' time down the line.
There was a plan earlier to appoint ministers to negotiate with individual countries, to put ministers in charge of individual countries for debt restructuring.
There is no ministerial committee appointed as such, yes. But Central Bank and under the Honorable Finance Minister spearheading that campaign, they are speaking to different agencies, and also the Governor of the Central Bank, he is also actively involved. So we hope that we should be able to restructure some of the loans, but it's still we are at the discussion level.
Based on Department of Census and Statistics data released on Monday, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka reports that headline inflation measured by the year-on-year change in the Colombo Consumer Price Index increased to 14.2% in January 2022. The average inflation rate for the month of January 2022 is 6.9%. Inflation was driven by monthly increases of prices of items in both food and non-food categories.
Year-on-year food inflation increased to 25% in January 2022, while non-food inflation increased to 9.2% in January 2022. Monthly change of CCPI was recorded at 2.43% in January 2022 due to price increases observed in items of both food and non-food categories, which were 1.15% and 1.28% respectively. In the food category, prominent increases were observed in prices of rice, fresh fruit, milk powder and bread. The non-food category recorded increases due to price increases observed in the transport, housing, water, electricity, gas and other fuel, education and restaurant and hotel subcategories. The CCPI for all items in January was 158.4, registering an increase of 3.7 points compared to December 2021 and represents an increase of expenditure by Rs 2,271 in the market basket. The year-on-year core inflation, which reflects underlying inflation in the economy, increased to 9.9% in January 2022. Annual average core inflation increased to 5% in January 2022.
General Kamal Gunaratne at a government media conference on Monday stated that the 74th National Independence Day celebration parade will involve the tri-forces in a display of the nation's might. Defence Secretary General Gunaratne stressed the importance of involving the tribe forces in the National Independence Day celebration parade.
74 වන ජාතික නිදහස් දින උළෙල ඉතාමත්ම අභිමානවත් විදියට සමරන්න සියලු කටයුතු දැන් සූදානම් වෙමින් පවතිනවා. ඒ සඳහා රාජ්‍ය අමාත්‍යාංශය පැත්තෙන් සියලුම කටයුතු සිද්ධ වෙන අතර ත්‍රිවිධ හමුදාවත් පොලිසියත් ඒ වගේම සිවිල් ආරක්ෂක බලකායත් මේ අභිමානවත් පෙළපාලිය සඳහා අවශ්‍ය සියලු කටයුතු සූදානම් කරලා දැන් ඒ සඳහා අවශ්‍ය පෙරහුරුවන් පැවැත්වෙනවා. ඉතින් පෙර වසරවලදී වගේම මෙවරත් ඉතාමත්ම අභිමානවත් විදියට මේ පෙළපාලිය ඒ කියන්නේ ජාතියේ අභිමානයේ ශාස්ත්‍රීය විභූතිය විදහා දක්වන පරිදි මේ පෙළපාලිය පවත්වන්න අපි කටයුතු යොදලා තියෙනවා. ඕනෑම රටක අභිමානය කියලා කියන්නේ ඒ රටේ ආරක්ෂක හමුදාවන්. ඒක නිසා තමයි ඕනෑම රටක රිපබ්ලික් ඩේ එකක් නැත්නම් ජනරජ දිනයක් එහෙම නැත්නම් නිදහස් දිනයක් සමරද්දී ඒ ත්‍රිවිධ හමුදාවන් සහභාගී කරගෙන බොහොම අභිමානවත් ප්‍රෞඩ ආකාරයට පෙළපාලියක් පවත්වන්නේ.
We will be back with more stories after this short break.
Skoda. Simply clever.
Welcome back to the program. Government on Monday announced the Cabinet of Ministers had cleared a proposal to charge a 25% extra windfall-style income tax on companies and individuals who had earned over 2,000 million rupees in the period of 2020 to 2021. Sources further announced that the Attorney General's clearance has already been received for the surcharge tax bill prepared accordingly by the legal draftsman.
Cabinet of Ministers approved the proposal presented by the Minister of Finance to publish the bill in the Government Gazette and thereafter submit it to the Parliament. The government proposed the retrospective tax in the budget for 2022, causing concerns. A similar super gains tax was imposed in the 2015 budget, which was heavily criticized for undermining tax predictability and rule of law. However, Sri Lanka cut taxes, including income taxes, in December 2019, expanding the budget deficit. Several other taxes have also been proposed to show up revenues. Sri Lanka has seen forex shortages and balance of payments deficits after money was printed to finance deficits. Meanwhile, the government also reveals that tax revenue, which was 13% of GDP in 2010, declined to 8% in 2020. They pointed out that ad hoc policy changes and weak administration contributed to the decline in tax revenue collection. They also add that this continuous decline in tax revenue has led to widening fiscal deficits and increasing debt. One of the main reasons for the current macroeconomic crisis is low tax revenue collection. Hence, any change to the existing tax system should be with the primary objective of raising more revenue.
Meanwhile, companies in Sri Lanka have been deemed to be moderately transparent in corporate reporting, according to the publication's Transparency in Corporate Reporting Assessment 2021. The assessment report, which was unveiled on Monday, was compiled by Transparency International Sri Lanka for the second consecutive year.
The Transparency in Corporate Reporting Assessment 2021 report assesses the top 75 public limited companies on the Colombo Stock Exchange on the level of transparency in the disclosure of information. The assessment scores and ranks companies on 3 different thematic areas crucial to fighting and preventing corruption. These are reporting on anti-corruption programs, transparency in company holdings, and the disclosure of key financial information in domestic operations. The research found out that companies on average are moderately transparent in corporate reporting with a score of 6.93 out of 10, where 0 is the least transparent and 10 is fully transparent. The average score of 6.93 is slightly higher than the 6.73 score obtained in the previous assessment conducted in 2020. The 2020 TRA report assessed 50 companies.
According to the Transparency in Corporate Reporting Assessment 2022 report, John Keel's Holdings, Commercial Bank of Ceylon and Dialogue are the companies which recorded the highest overall scores in the assessment. John Keel's Holdings plc ranked first for the second consecutive year, being the only company to obtain the full overall score for transparency in disclosure practices.
Companies were scored and ranked based on the latest annual reports and publicly available information pertaining to the company. Transparency International states that the private sector in Sri Lanka is usually seen as an enabler of corruption. It holds that this notion is further exacerbated by the fact that there is no mandatory requirement for the private sector to publish information on their community contributions, corruption mitigation strategies, or their organizational structures. The organization claims that committing to be fully transparent in the disclosure of key information is an important step that demonstrates a company's level of accountability and social responsibility. Through the TRAC assessment, Transparency International aims to ascertain, recognize, guide and encourage transparency in corporate reporting.
Well, that's the end of the program. See you tomorrow with State of Business at the usual time. Take care and good night.